The entire garage laughed when Ethan Cole spent 6 straight months rebuilding an engine everyone called dead metal. Even the company's ruthless owner said he was wasting time, wasting money and destroying his future. Then one rainy night, she fired him in front of everyone and ordered the engine thrown into the scrapyard. But what nobody knew was that Ethan had discovered something hidden deep inside that machine, a design powerful enough to change racing forever. Weeks later, the same engine she mocked would roar across a professional racetrack and shatter every speed record ever set. And when the world learned who built it, the woman who fired him was forced to watch her empire collapse on live television. Stay until the end, because the final moment will leave you speechless. And if you love emotional comeback stories filled with revenge, passion and inspiration, make sure to like this video and subscribe to Kind Soul. Stories for more unforgettable journeys. The rain hammered against the cracked windows of Vortex Automotive while the mechanics rushed to finish their shifts before midnight. Sparks flew across the giant repair floor, engines roared like angry beasts, and the smell of oil soaked every corner of the garage. In the middle of the chaos stood Ethan Cole, his hands covered in grease as he stared silently at a destroyed race engine lying on a steel table. The machine had arrived earlier that evening after a horrific crash during a private high-speed test. Most of the crew called it hopeless within seconds. The pistons were shattered, the fuel system melted, and the entire outer casing looked like twisted scrap metal. One mechanic laughed and said the engine belonged in a museum for disasters. Another suggested throwing it directly into the junk container outside. But Ethan noticed something strange hidden beneath the damage. Deep inside, the broken housing was a rare airflow chamber, designed differently from anything he had seen before. His eyes narrowed with curiosity as he slowly examined the burnt components piece by piece. To everyone else, it was a dead engine. To Ethan, it looked like unfinished genius. At that moment, the sharp sound of high heels echoed across the garage floor. Miranda Vale, the powerful owner of Vortex Automotive, entered wearing a dark designer coat while employees instantly straightened themselves nervously. She was respected, feared, and known for destroying anyone who slowed the company down. Her cold eyes moved across the room until they landed on Ethan, kneeling beside the ruined engine. "Why is that junk still here?" she asked sharply. Ethan stood carefully and explained that the engine design contained revolutionary potential if rebuilt properly. Before he could finish, several workers laughed quietly behind him. Miranda crossed her arms and stared at him like he had lost his mind. "You're paid to repair valuable machines." "Not chase fantasies," she replied coldly. Then she ordered the crew to scrap the engine by morning. Everyone returned to work, but Ethan remained frozen beside the table long after Miranda disappeared into her glass office upstairs. Hours later, when the garage finally emptied and silence covered the building, Ethan secretly rolled the engine into a forgotten storage corner hidden behind old equipment. Under a single flickering light bulb, he began carefully removing damaged parts with trembling hands. Outside, thunder shook the sky while Ethan whispered softly to himself, "You're not dead yet." In that lonely moment, without realizing it, he started the journey that would change his entire life forever. For the next 6 months, Ethan Cole lived 2 different lives inside Vortex Automotive. During the day, he worked like every other mechanic, repairing customer vehicles, changing damaged parts, and pretending he had forgotten about the destroyed engine hidden in the back storage room. But every night after the workers left and the giant garage fell silent, he returned to the forgotten corner where the broken machine waited beneath dusty sheets and dim yellow lights. Hour after hour, Ethan studied every crack, every burned wire, and every twisted metal piece with relentless determination. His hands became rougher, his eyes red from exhaustion, and dark circles formed beneath them from countless sleepless nights. Still, he refused to stop. The deeper he explored the engine's design, the more convinced he became that it contained something revolutionary. The unique airflow chamber didn't just improve performance, it created power in ways traditional racing systems never could. Ethan filled notebooks with calculations, sketches, and redesigns while surviving mostly on cheap coffee and vending machine snacks. Sometimes he would accidentally fall asleep at the workbench with tools still in his hands. Yet despite the struggle, the engine slowly began coming back to life piece by piece. Unfortunately, the other workers started noticing his strange behavior. They mocked him constantly during breaks, calling him the engine doctor and laughing behind his back whenever he walked by. Some believed the pressure of the job had broken his mind completely. Even Ethan's closest co-worker warned him that Miranda Vale would never allow such a risky project inside her company. But Ethan ignored every insult because something inside him refused to let the engine die. One freezing evening, the entire company prepared for an important investor presentation. Luxury cars sparkled under bright showroom lights, while executives walked proudly through the garage, discussing profits and future racing contracts. Miranda demanded perfection from every employee because millions of dollars depended on the meeting. But while everyone else prepared the showroom, Ethan remained hidden in the storage corner, tightening bolts on the rebuilt engine. He had finally managed to restore part of the airflow system, and for the first time, the machine showed signs of life. Suddenly, a loud voice shattered the silence behind him. "What exactly do you think you're doing?" Ethan turned in shock to see Miranda standing there beside several wealthy investors. Her expression darkened instantly when she saw the engine. In front of everyone, she exploded with anger, accusing Ethan of wasting company time, resources, and energy on worthless scrap metal. Ethan tried desperately to explain his discovery, but Miranda cut him off coldly. Then, in the most humiliating moment of his life, she fired him on the spot while the entire garage watched. In silence, the cold rain poured heavily outside. Vortex Automotive as silence filled the garage after Miranda Vale fired Ethan Cole in front of everyone. The workers avoided eye contact while Ethan stood frozen beside the half-rebuilt engine, his heart pounding with humiliation and disbelief. For years he had given everything to the company, sacrificing sleep, relationships, and peace just to become the best mechanic he could be. Yet in a single moment it was all gone. Miranda stared at him without sympathy and ordered security to escort him out immediately. Then she pointed toward the engine with disgust and said, "Throw that scrap into the junkyard tonight." Her words cut deeper than the firing itself. Ethan slowly removed his work gloves, placed them carefully on the steel table, and looked one last time at the machine he had spent months rebuilding in secret. Around him, whispers spread through the garage as mechanics quietly discussed his downfall. Some pitied him, but most believed Miranda was right. Chasing impossible dreams inside a corporate company was dangerous, and Ethan had paid the price for it. Without arguing further, he gathered his small toolbox and walked toward the exit under the cold white lights of the garage. The sound of thunder echoed outside as rainwater dripped from the ceiling onto the concrete floor. Just before leaving, Ethan turned back for one final glance at the hidden engine. Deep inside, he felt something stronger than anger growing within him: determination. Late that night, after most employees had gone home, Ethan secretly returned to the storage room through a rear service entrance. The building was nearly dark except for emergency lights glowing faintly across the empty garage. Moving quickly, he covered the engine with an old tarp and carefully loaded it onto a rusted trailer attached to his pickup truck. Every metallic sound made his heart race with fear that security might catch him. But Ethan refused to abandon the machine after coming so far. As he secured the final straps around the engine, he noticed someone standing silently near the doorway. It was Daniel Mercer, a retired race driver who occasionally visited the garage for custom repairs. Daniel had witnessed Ethan's firing earlier that evening. Instead of mocking him like the others, he stepped forward quietly and handed Ethan a small business card. "If that engine works," Daniel said calmly, "there's a race coming soon where people like you finally get noticed." Ethan stared at the card silently while rain poured harder outside. Then Daniel looked at the covered machine and added, "Sometimes the world calls something dead, simply because it's afraid of what it could become." Moments later, Ethan drove away into the storm carrying the engine, his shattered dreams, and the tiny spark of hope that refused to die. 3 months after being fired from Vortex Automotive, Ethan Cole stood inside a small, abandoned warehouse on the edge of the city, staring proudly at the machine everyone once called useless scrap. The warehouse was cold, dusty, and barely large enough for the old race car sitting beneath hanging industrial lights. But to Ethan, it felt like the beginning of a new world. Every dollar he earned repairing motorcycles and damaged streetcars had gone into rebuilding the engine. Many nights he worked until sunrise with bleeding knuckles and exhausted eyes, surviving on little sleep and pure determination. Beside him stood Daniel Mercer, the retired racer who had become the only person willing to believe in him. Together they transformed the old, lightweight car into something terrifyingly powerful. The revolutionary airflow system Ethan discovered inside the destroyed engine had evolved into a masterpiece. Instead of overheating at high speed like traditional racing engines, this machine became stronger the faster it moved. Even Daniel admitted he had never seen anything like it before. Finally, the night of the Underground Championship arrived. Thousands of spectators packed the massive industrial racetrack illuminated by neon lights and giant screens. Music thundered through the air while wealthy racers displayed million-dollar supercars polished to perfection. Compared to them, Ethan's vehicle looked rough and almost forgotten. Some competitors laughed openly when they saw him enter the track area. Reporters mocked the car as garage junk built by a fired mechanic. Ethan heard every insult but remained calm. He had spent too many painful months fighting doubt to fear opinions anymore. Back at her luxury office, Miranda Vale watched the race. Live stream out of curiosity after hearing rumors about Ethan's appearance. At first she smirked confidently, certain he would embarrass himself publicly. But the moment Ethan started the engine, her expression changed completely. The sound was deep, aggressive, and unlike anything she had ever heard before. The race began violently as cars exploded forward under flashing green lights. Expensive machines dominated the opening laps while Ethan remained behind the leaders. Then everything changed. Midway through the race, Ethan activated the rebuilt airflow system fully. Suddenly his car launched forward with unbelievable speed, tearing past competitors one after another like a missile. The crowd erupted into screams as speed monitors displayed numbers never recorded before in racing history. Commentators shouted in disbelief, while cameras struggled to follow the car racing down the final straightaway. Seconds later, Ethan crossed the finish line and shattered the world speed record completely. The stadium exploded with shock and celebration, while Miranda stared speechless at her screen. Realizing the dead engine she threw away had just changed the world forever. If this story inspired you, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone chasing their dreams, and subscribe to Kind Soul Stories for more emotional journeys that touch the heart and remind us never to give up.